wrong.
Okay, I started with that, people, because I noticed early on in the chat, someone said if you start with another Trudeau clip, I'm unsubbing. There's going to be enough Trudeau clips in the context of this live stream that I figured I'm not going to punish you more than I have to. And speak nature lover, I started that clip for another reason as well. I've had a pain in my back since Sunday. I didn't fall this time, but like I haven't exercised those muscles in a little while. Oh, but it hurts. It hurts. Oh gosh. Anyhow, so I've been walking around. I've been able to jog. I went biking yesterday, but my goodness, yeah, 42 years old. I'm going to be 43 in 1 month. Oh my God, less than 1 month. I'm going to be 43, May 23rd, people. But I figured I'd start with that video, get everyone warmed up for another stream, explain why my back is hurting, and just another intro story which will turn some people's stomachs. I was at the park the other day with my kid, and Mount Royal Park, beautiful. They have a beautiful playground there, and they have this little spinny thing that you sit in and you spin it around, and kid gets in it and then freaks out because there's a little spider underneath the handrail. And it's like, don't worry, that's not a big deal. So I take the spider, show her the spider. And then the spider crawls up under my jacket and disappears into my jacket. And I'm not the type to kill an animal because of my own life decision. So the spider crawls up into my jacket and I don't panic. I don't have anything against spiders. Take off my jacket. I think I shake it out. The spider seems to have bitten my torso 3 times. I woke up the next morning with 3 orange or pinkish reddish dots. If anybody's had poison ivy or anybody's had shingles, you'll know the itch that I'm talking about. It is a debilitating, to the core of your bones itch. That little bastard spider bit me. And then I looked it up afterwards, and apparently it's called a yellow sac spider. Very small spiders, and they just bite. And it feels like a tick. But my goodness. So now I've got a sore back. I've got 3 of the itchiest spider bites you can imagine on my stomach. So itchy that I had a dream that I was scratching them, and when I woke up, I was scratching them. Low volume, Viva. Hold on. Let me see here. Damn it. Let me see what my settings are on the mic, because I'm being in. Why would the mic be at 24? Do I have to do the intro all over again? Why doesn't it have automatically adjust the volume? What's going on here? Okay, is this better? Let's see if this is better. Now, do I have to go over everything that I just said again? I don't. I'm not going to. Viva is kvetching. Where did it go? Oy vey, my back hurts. My body's itchy. And now we've got to go from that physical body pains to the spiritual body pains of talking about what is going on. Oh, God. Okay. Damn it. You know who has the hardest time in this? Eric Hunley sends me the remastered audio so I can turn it into podcast thingy things. Now there's going to be like massive irregularities in audio. So what is up, people? The big news of the day, Legal Bites in real time hit 100,000 subscribers, covering Johnny Depp, covering the trial. The amount of people watching that trial, it's mind-blowing. There are like Law and Crime I think they had hundreds of they had like tens of thousands easily. It might have been over 100,000. I think it might have been over 100,000 watching this. You got Legal Bites. You got Ricada. You've got this other guy, journalist Tom or something. I'm just going and seeing the amount of live streams and the viewership on those live streams. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing the level of interest there is in this, but it's like peering into the lives of the rich and the famous to say, my goodness, rich or poor, it's good to be rich, but rich or poor, it's good to have healthy relationships in your life. So the 300. So I'm not going crazy. 370,000 people, and what are they? They're just. It's like you're listening to a soap opera all day. It's like The Young and the Restless, except it's real in a sense that it's actual humans. But look, I'm not going to get into it. I popped into Legal Bites channel earlier today. It's an interesting, the expert that testified today on Amber Heard's personality disorder. What do they call it? Borderline personality disorder. It's insightful stuff to understand as relates to identifying that type of behavior in other people. It's useful in terms of identifying it when it occurs in real time, so you can avoid the type of relationship that Johnny Depp seems to have been in with Amber Heard. So there's that. If you want to draw something, a pragmatic value from watching the trial, there's that. Other than that, I mean, it's like this is people craning their neck at a car wreck because Johnny Depp's relationship with Amber Heard was a car wreck. It was. I mean, look, I won't say that I was wrong. I won't admit that I was wrong. It's not because it wasn't a categoric statement. Johnny Depp should not go to trial. I said I would be very reluctant if I were Johnny Depp to go to trial because ugly stuff is going to come out about him during the trial. Nobody's going to look good. Now, I mean, I guess that might have been my advice as a lawyer, and I've now witnessed enough of the trial to say, yeah, I mean, even if Johnny Depp loses the trial now, it's going to be a win in the public eye because I think the details coming out of the actual abuse that Johnny Depp was going through, was enduring. He can lose this trial now. The world now knows, I think, quite clearly who is the abuser in that relationship: physical, psychological, emotional, and I mean physical. Like the stories of Amber Heard throwing bottles of vodka at Johnny Depp when he was drinking, and then one shattering and slicing off the tip of his finger. And I mean, he can lose this trial now, and the public and millions of people. I mean, 373,000 on Law and Crime, tens of thousands on it. I mean, you're talking like millions of people watching this in real time. They now know, and like it seems to be not just incontrovertible evidence. It seems to be admitted evidence. There's like, it's there. I mean, Johnny Depp might have some bad stuff there, but the world now understands what he was going through. And for all his foibles, it's not because you have problems with drugs or you have other problems in life that you can be a bona fide victim of somebody else. It's not because you're a male, a big, massively successful male, that you can't be in an abusive relationship with a smaller female. Anyway, so that's it. We don't need to go over that, but so for anybody who's apparently she lied about having PTSD, Amber Heard, as a result of the abuse that Johnny Depp allegedly inflicted on her. And they went to have a court-ordered expert assess her level of PTSD. And that expert concluded that not only did she not suffer from PTSD, but she suffered from borderline personality disorder and was lying about the PTSD in this expert's humble opinion. That, like there's 20 indications of post-traumatic stress disorder. And typically, like even in a bona fide case of someone who genuinely has it, you might tick off like 5 of the 20. Amber Heard ticked off 19 of the 20. And this expert said, you don't see that ever. And then this expert, concluded that not only did she not have PTSD, but she had BPD, borderline personality disorder, which would explain everything that she did and said and how she interacted with Johnny. Yeah, I wish they would televise Ghislaine Maxwell's trial. Things that make you go, Yep. No, it's like televise for show, conceal for dough. Ooh, not bad. There's the old expression in golf: drive for dough, drive for show, putt for dough. Televise for show and conceal for dough, because there's the federal courts don't broadcast trials, state courts do. Nonetheless, anyhow. So that's it. This is not about Johnny Depp. This is not about Amber Heard. This is about, we're going to talk about Twitter. We're going to talk about my inability to understand sarcasm on Twitter to a point where it's embarrassing because I don't get it seems that I'm incapable, at least I was yesterday and this morning, of identifying sarcasm, satire on Twitter. Hold on one second. I'm going to bring one up because I feel like an idiot. I feel like an idiot, partially because I think I might be. Sometimes I feel like I'm turning into an idiot. Yesterday, a Twitter account. Now, I will say, you make mistakes when you make presuppositions. Where when you see a blue check mark with I'm leaving the U.S. if Trump gets elected, or I'm going to Canada if Elon takes over Twitter, you make you might approach something with presuppositions based on you see a blue check mark, and if you don't know the person, you think they're being serious. Which really, it confirms that you need to, where did it go? You need to verify things before. I saw a TED Talk where someone said, the difference, but being right and being wrong feel the same. And it only feels bad when you realize you made it when you were wrong. Okay, why can't I find what it was yesterday that made me? Here we go. Okay, so Katie Herzog, I see a blue check mark, and I read this. I said, if Elon buys Musk, I'm moving to Canada. And I thought it was serious. I didn't know who Katie Herzog was. And I just responded. I took the bait, and I said, enjoy your endless and arbitrary curfew. You'll have lots of time to rethink your decision when you're locked in your house from 8 in the evening until 5 in the morning. Do you have kids? They especially love curfew, all to avoid a free Twitter. And I said it still like tongue-in-cheek somewhat, kind of. And it was to sensitize people to the actual, like the grass is always greener. Everyone says it. But sometimes the grass actually is greener. I didn't know that I didn't know. I'm an idiot. Couldn't identify it. And then when I found out, I said, I have to leave it up. I have to leave it up because I have to remember what this feels like. Make sure you double check. If something sounds a little too absurd, chances are it probably is. But I say that, and then Tim Pool this morning retweets, this is real, and it's an exchange between Zuby and Hanania, Richard Hanania. And I can't, I don't know anymore. I feel like I'm not taking crazy pills. I feel like I'm just, it was a good response. It was a good response for anybody who's serious. But yeah, it's, anyways, so I'm going to leave up the evidence of my own stupidity, but I'm getting a little concerned. Like, every now and again, I read things literally. Like somebody made a joke about they went with their dog to the park and the duck didn't like their dog because it was purebred. And I was like, I didn't even get the joke. And I'm starting to question my own intelligence, but we'll leave it at there. Vile Impaler says, I am super duper interested in seeing what is found in the code once it's made public. Everything people have been suspecting to be true. Super excited. This, I presume, we're talking about Twitter. So we now know it's a done deal of sorts. I mean, it's got to go through some procedural stuff, but Elon Musk is going to, Twitter accepted Elon Musk's offer to purchase the company. People have been melting down. People have been going a little, they've been overreacting. Sean King, I'm looking your way. Brian Stelter, the king of fake news, comes out and says, there'll be absolutely no moderation. There's going to be absolutely no rules. Twitter is going to turn people. I mean, I don't know what people think. I genuinely don't believe they actually believe what they're saying, but it's good for news and it's good for clicks and it's good for demonizing Elon Musk, and it's good for stoking fear, stoking panic, stoking, I won't say, it's good for dividing and conquering, so to speak. But there have been a lot of people on Twitter saying that they've noticed their subs going up a lot. Cat Turd being one of them. Cat Turd, for anybody who's interested, awesome Twitter to follow, but is in the hospital with some form of stomach blockage. So I don't say thoughts and prayers, but well wishes. And speedy recovery, Cat Turd. I tried to make a joke, it might be a hairball, but I don't want to make light of anybody's actual serious problem. But anyways, Cat Turd, nothing but good news. So heal up and hopefully it's not serious. But people have been saying they've noticed their sub count going up. And I've noticed more, I guess, than typical, but I have noticed people commenting in Twitter saying, I'm back. Never thought I'd come back, but here I am. And in other news, to toot a little bit of Rumble's horn, Rumble on Truth Social just reached 500,000 subs, but Truth Social, the app, is now #1 in the App Store, which, contrary to what I predicted the other day, I said the only people who are going to lose from an Elon Musk buyout of Twitter are going to be Truth, Getter, and the other alternative platforms, which were going to be the free speech platforms. It seems that a rising tide lifts all ships in the truest of senses. But no, people have been flipping out on Twitter in ways that are unbelievable to watch. But the best one, someone asked, who's Sean King? Who's Sean King? Let's see this. I have to bring it up because I'm going to start with the tweet. Start with Sean King's tweet. I'm not entirely clear on who Sean King is. I hear some jokes about, based in identity stuff, race, as to Sean King's genetics versus his public image, and I don't know anything about it, so I don't want to get into it. But this is Sean King now. Everybody's flipping out that Elon Musk now has taken over Twitter. It's going to turn into an extremist, right-wing, ruleless, whatever. Ask any conservative this question and watch them struggle to answer it. Since you say free speech and all speech needs to be allowed on Twitter, does that mean you believe that should include targeted hate speech against Jews? Should that be allowed? Be specific and clear. Now, I think I responded to him, or I just tweeted, like, define hate speech. Be specific and clear. But what I found more interesting is this is an individual who's now freaking out about free speech. He says, since Elon Musk says all legal speech should be allowed on Twitter, isn't he aware that it's legal to advocate? I'm not sure that this is true, by the way. In fact, I'm fairly certain it's not true. I'm fairly certain that is illegal. But setting that aside, this man is scared about hate speech. Sean King. Did he change his profile? Hold on 1 second. Sean King. Oh, he changed his profile. Good thing I screenshotted it. My response to Sean King was when this was Sean King's profile, I'm still here, mother effers. And this dovetails into people not reading sarcasm or everyone taking things, verbatim on Twitter. I said, mother effers is hate speech. Sean King should be banned from Twitter. He changed his profile. I'm going to take credit for that. People. First of all, it's projection with lack of insight. It's confession through projection with lack of insight. This is a man who, by his own standards, by his own fallacious reasoning, would probably be guilty of hate speech more than most people that he accuses of. And they're unaware. They don't assess. They don't view themselves. They lack self-awareness. It's the worst type of confession. It's not that he's accusing others of like what he knows that he's doing. I think he's unaware. But this guy now is worried about hate speech on the platform. Targeted harassment against any individual. By the way, that's already illegal. Like targeted harassment, there are criminal provisions to deal with that. Hate speech, you have different hate speech laws in the States, but there are still laws against calls to violence. There are laws against not necessarily doxing, but public disclosure of private facts. There's already laws against that. But to come on and define hate speech, Sean King. Someone said, by the way, I shouldn't give him more attention than he deserves. But at some point, I say also, at some point, you're not necessarily talking to the person, but you're using that person as the not a pretext, but rather as the platform from which to share a message that's relevant from that individual. I don't care if Sean King ever sees this, but other people out there who share the same concerns. What is hate speech? Specifically, I can think of some examples that people would qualify as hate speech that I might not qualify as hate speech. But people are just flipping out. Brian Stelter is going on the news saying there's going to be no rules. It's going to be the Wild West of everyone. Other than being untrue, if you can't handle a little words that you don't like, maybe Twitter's not the place for you. It's not. These. First of all, there is anonymity on the internet. The internet is remorseless in terms of its humor, cynicism, jaded observations. If you can't handle it, you don't craft the public market around your own sensitivities. Maybe you govern your own behavior based on your own sensitivities. I will not repeat this. I can neither affirm nor deny. I am unaware. But sticks and stones. I mean, so this is what's going on in Twitter. But I have noticed an increase in follow, minor but more higher than average, and a lot of people are noticing it too. Now the question is Elon Musk? Are they shredding documents behind? They made a joke that apparently they've now frozen some aspects of Twitter so that disgruntled employees can't mess with Twitter during this takeover. The question is whether or not they're not messing with the system right now, but they are destroying the evidence of what they had hitherto been doing to mess with the system, to shadow ban, to downgrade, down prioritize certain accounts that are now seeing the light of day on Twitter. Let's see this here. Viva, have you heard that the Biden admin are now trying to reform Section 230 to require transparency? Well, I was going to pull that up. That's part and parcel of what we're discussing now. Yes. Now all of a sudden, Elon Musk takes over Twitter, and now you have Jen Psaki. I think I'm going to say Jen Psaki because I think it actually sounds better. Okay, Jen Psaki. You have Jen Psaki now publicly stating they're going to entertain the idea of Section 230 reform. And I made let me see if I can find. I made a tweet about it. We don't need to read a tweet, but I said, it's interesting. The same people who were just railing against DeSantis for not the same. This is not a targeted critique of any specific individuals who were defending Disney, because I think that they would have consistent views on this. There's going to be a lot of people, a lot of politically motivated people who were railing against DeSantis for political reprisals, for stripping Disney of their special tax exemption privileges, whatever, saying that that's political reprisal for exercise of free speech. You're going to have a lot of those people now who are going to suddenly support Psaki and a government amendment of Section 230, revising it, reforming it to counter what they perceive to be this absolutely exaggerated, non-existent threat of Elon Musk taking over Twitter and, I don't know, using it for nefarious purposes. But so you're going to have people engaging in motivated reasoning. DeSantis is engaging in reprisals, and it's unwarranted and unjustified, and only evil Republicans do that. But Psaki all of a sudden saying, "Yeah, we're eyeing reforming Section 230." That's okay. I have always been something of not an advocate, but support the idea of Section 230 immunity, because I think that the reform that I have in mind, which is not tailored but tempered by Robert Barnes's assessment. I've changed my opinion on some of the Section 230 immunity, because if you strip the immunity of the platforms, in reality, if you strip the sections, strip the online tech platforms of Section 230 immunity for their moderation, if they moderate and editorialize, they can be held accountable for what they do. Fine. What's the reality of that? The Facebooks, the Twitters, the YouTubes, what's the other one? Whatever, they will be able to pay the fines that will result from that, but the smaller platforms will absolutely not be able to assume those costs. And so effectively, that type of stripping of immunity would, in fact, indirectly only benefit the big tech companies that have deep pockets and can pay all these, that can handle that type of fines and administration, and the smaller platforms, it would bankrupt them. So an outright stripping of Section 2, repeal Section 230 would sound good, but would actually only benefit the bigger players already. The Barnes approach, which is the carrot and the stick, you will get Section 230 immunity if you respect First Amendment constitutional protections. If it's not illegal, leave it up. And if you want immunity, you can cure it. You can remove the illegal stuff, but you can't remove. You can't violate First Amendment laws if you want that immunity. Or be totally transparent, show how you're doing it, and show that it is being apolitically applied, as opposed to, totally hidden, totally lacking transparency, and arguably politically weaponized. So we'll see what something tells me, however, that Psaki's idea of, reviewing Section 230 immunity is going to impose more penalties and more specific censorship, as opposed to more transparency and more lawful freedom to the platforms to allow some content that might offend people, but that is not illegal and that should not be removed in a politically weaponized manner. Okay, let me see. I saw 2 super chats. But anyways, let's see how they review it. Something tells me they're going to do it the wrong way. They deserve immunity if they are not weaponizing the censorship or the content curation. Crowder exposed King for doing it, so you don't think I'm acting in bad... No, I don't think you're acting in bad faith, Fringe Canadian, whatsoever. You've got a name, Fringe Canadian. You can't be acting in bad faith. You might have unacceptable views, but I don't think... No, and I heard the stories too. I just, I also know what I think personally of this Sean King character based on his own tweets. Freedom of speech is essential to our well-being. Thank you for being a caring person. The world needs more people like you, Viva. Thank you very much. Look at that little doggy. It's a cute dog. No, wait, hold on. I have to bring one up. I have to bring this up because it's satirical. It's satirical to the point of absurdity. Twitter, bring this one up here. It was today that I put it up. I mean, you could make it up, but people would think you're lying. No. It was a headline. It was a headline from NPR. I mean, you would think it was the Babylon Bee headline, but they actually think free speech is a threat to democracy. The article on the left from NPR, unfettered free speech is a threat to democracy, journalist says. So it's not NPR, it's a journalist. Go look up the article. I don't think I clipped it here. I mean, it's a joke. Unfettered free speech is a threat to democracy. I mean, that's a little bit of confession through projection as well, because unfettered free speech ends up getting exploited and weaponized by those who use the unfettered free speech to silence other people for using their free speech. But I mean, it's like democracy is a threat to democracy. Open elections is a threat to democracy. Unfettered free speech is a threat to democracy. And then you got the article from Obama, which is recent. Obama argues unregulated social media is a threat to democracy, as opposed to government-regulated social media, politically motivated government regulation of social media. The only thing that is a threat to democracy is darkness. Transparency, open dialogue, even if it hurts your ears to hear it, even if you think it's targeted at specific groups because it addresses things in a open, callous, insulting manner, you do not have a right not to be insulted in this life. But speaking of something dying in darkness, Tim Pool. Check this out, people. This is fantastic. Let me see this. And this is Tim Pool. The Washington Post and Taylor Lorenz doxed libs of TikTok. They included a link to private work details and an address listed as lib's private home. They lied about it, so I got an ad in Times Square calling them out. That, Mr. Pool, is money well spent. Yeah, best use of money ever. But they don't believe that free speech and an unregulated social media is a threat to democracy. What they mean is that free speech and an unregulated social media is a threat to their power. And that's true. That is probably 100% true. Because you don't censor and suppress ideas that are idiotic, stupid, and that pose no risk to your holding of power. You actually amplify those messages. The old Napoleon expression, never, is it Napoleon or Sun Tzu? Never interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake. If someone wants to hang themselves, give them a little rope. If illegal content can be removed, why wouldn't Congress make something very specific illegal to enforce such a thing? Well, I mean, that's weaponizing the political process. I mean, this is the thing, going back to Sean King, hate speech, targeted hate speech against Jews. I listened to some of our members of parliament in Canada say that honk honk was a, what do they call it? Code for the Schmeil Schmittler, because it was HH. So honk honk becomes hate speech now. You know what? Hate speech, you can have a problem with it or not. I'm growing to have a problem with how it's been implemented, because calling someone a clown, calling someone the clown world becomes hate speech. I happen to think that there were already, technically speaking, hate speech in the sense of promoting violence against specific individuals, targeted harassment, threats, was already illegal. To say I don't like fill in the blank makes you an asshole. Should it be illegal? If I were president or prime minister, I don't like fill in the bracket with whatever, would not be. Hate speech. Tom McDonald. There's a difference between hate speech and speech that you hate. I think you give those people a bullhorn. No one's going to look at that and say, I'd like to subscribe to your newsletter. You sound like you have some very interesting ideas. I say you give them the bullhorn and you let everyone know exactly who they are so that you can know to avoid them, actually. So that's what's going on in Twitter. I mean, it's interesting. What I can't get over is Elon Musk. He just has to, and I say this with no envy, and I say this like not out of jealous envy. And there's no but. He has to feel like the coolest guy at the party now. He has to feel like the guy at the party, and everyone's like, dude, buy a bottle and like give everyone a drink. And like, he's like, okay. And he does it. And it was like, dude, this guy's awesome. Imagine he actually bought Twitter. He gets up and says, there's a problem on Twitter. And people are like, yeah, go buy it. And he buys it. And he buys it. And before he can even do anything, like concretely, you start seeing effects everywhere, across all platforms. Truth starts seeing a spike. Rumble starts seeing a spike. It's almost like freedom of speech is good for everything. It's almost like competition is good for everyone. But he actually woke up one day and said, there's a problem. Go buy Twitter. And he literally bought Twitter. And now everyone out there, you may think he's got ulterior motives and whatever. Yeah, it's fine. You can never definitively argue intentions, but you can certainly observe results. Whether or not he wants to do this to plant a chip in the back of your head and whatever, whether or not he's doing this strictly, as an investment for Tesla, whether or not he's going to abuse of his newfound powers in the future, we'll see. For the time being, the dude bought Tesla. The dude bought, I just blew my soundbite. The dude bought Twitter. And people are melting down at the prospect of less content moderation on a social media platform. Like I said on Twitter, people having breakdowns over the prospect, because it hasn't happened yet, over the mere prospect of potentially less content moderation on stuff that might hurt your spirit or hurt your ears or hurt your eyes to see, hear, or read. The fact that causes a meltdown, that is the definition of a snowflake. That is you imagine if you want to be on this platform and you want to say, you can't call me names. You can't call me a mother effer. That's offensive to me. Have them removed. Sir, have the individual who just called me a name removed from this public institution that I came to voluntarily. Doesn't work at a bar. Why would it work on social media? He bought Twitter. And people are melting down because they think there might actually be more free speech. Tom DeLonge from Angels and Airways, and I know people are going to rag on him. I still like him. I think he's been overcome with some media hype. But what did he write the other day? I mean, it's amazing to see the perspective Let's see if anybody can find this. This is how I've been feeling a lot lately.
I don't even know anymore.
Are you being sarcastic, dude?
I don't even know anymore.
Are you
Okay,
being
get out of there.
sarcastic?
Okay. Tom DeLonge said it to Elon. What happens if politicians use the platform to lie? What happens if foreign entities use it to... Here we go. Tom DeLonge. First of all, I think I like Angels and Airways more than Blink-182. There, I said it, but I love Blink-182 as well. Tom DeLonge, as far as Angels and Airways is, it's art. I mean, it's obviously art because it's music. I love it, and I love the lyrics. And I think his lyrics are a lot more. I would think based on Tom DeLonge's lyrics, he would not ascribe to these political views, but whatever. Tom DeLonge, what if? And he's replying to Twitter. I hope that even my worst critics remain on Twitter. I screwed up. Because that is what free speech means. And this is what Tom DeLonge says, a public figure who's been very vocal about Ukraine, who wants his freedom of speech. He says, what if politicians use it to lie? Can you imagine if like politicians need Twitter to lie? In fact, if politicians are, well, we'll get to my response. Or foreign governments, and I think he means Russia, spend billions on tech to use bots as a means to induce political and civilian chaos. What then? What if it amplifies hate and division just because it's free speech? What then? Well, here's actually a phenomenal concept. If speech actually amplifies hate and division, the problem probably is not the speech, but a society that finds that speech compelling, that a society that actually finds that speech motivating. And in which case, you're better off knowing of the problem because it doesn't go away just because you don't let people say the things that other people find compelling publicly. They'll say it, and they'll say it underground. They'll say it on alternative platforms. They'll go to other platforms where it's only going to be an echo chamber of these thoughts over and over and over again, and people who share them reaffirming them. And that, by the way, is how you get people radicalized. If you want to talk about how radicalization happens, that's how it happens. Forcing people into their own silos where there is no countervailing view. But if you have people out on Twitter using free speech to promote hate and division, I guarantee you, Tom DeLonge, it's not going to be all that popular. It won't be all that popular. And you're better off knowing who they are. Or foreign governments spending billions to use bots as a means to induce civilian chaos. First of all, I think Elon has announced his plan to address the bot issue. But imagine the accusation here is that governments or foreign governments are spending billions to influence other nations. And I said, Tom, you might want to look a little closer to home. What if politicians use Twitter to lie? Then expose the lies, Tom DeLonge. And if you are worried about entities inducing political and civilian chaos, look no further than CNN and MSNBC. They did it it's their model. It's their business model. They sit around inducing social chaos. Mostly fiery but peaceful protest. That is what mainstream media in America does. But even they should be allowed on Twitter. Sunlight is the greatest disinfectants. Because it's not a Viva Frei tweet without a darn typo. This one didn't get the Ryan Reynolds, damn it. It got the disinfectant, leaving the typo, because I think I created a new word. YOLO. Anyway, so that's I think we're good on the Twitter rant. See a chat up here that I missed. What about the lives ruined from false allegations of hate speech? What about the lives ruined because once people are deplatformed, in French we say les absents ont toujours tort. Those who are absent are always wrong. What about those who are kicked off of social media platforms and aren't there to defend themselves and are just maligned by those who effectively got them kicked off? Unfettered free speech has, with some few exceptions, has been the rule for more than 200 years in the USA, and democracy survived. How can it now be a threat? Well, I'll push back a little bit. There has never been unfettered free speech because you're not allowed threatening to kill people. You're not allowed issuing death threats. You're not allowed doing a number of things. You're not allowed. It has never been unfettered. It has always. You're not allowed defaming people. I mean, people don't say, "Oh, so you're for unfettered free speech? You think everyone should just go run?" No, You're not allowed defaming people. It's not a limitation on free speech, but it's certainly a consequence of the unlawful exercise of freedom of speech. So it's never really been unfettered anywhere. There have been lawful limitations. So what's different now? So you can't. But right now, it's not a question of freedom of speech. It's a question of actual overt censorship of ideological and politically driven motivations. Like the idea that you can't discuss certain medical things, that Twitter says you can't run ads that deny the climate science, and that is to say, the climate consensus now of these, what we've now seen as highly politically motivated experts. That's nothing to do with free speech. That has to do with outright ideological censorship. But having content flagged for medical misinformation on YouTube when it's coming from doctors, this is not a question of free speech anymore. And to cloak it in a free speech issue is a lie. I know they have said this, but it is getting harder and harder for Babylon Bee to out-satire reality. It really, really is. Snowflake meltdown is fake. Oh, let's see this. I just submitted an appeal to get my account unsuspended. I gave the following reason. Since Elon Musk bought the company, I need my account back. Jacob, let us know how that goes. I know Trump said he's not coming back regardless. Be interesting. Anyways, we'll see what happens. Okay. Oh my God. See, he might be crazy. I still like him. I'll call it eccentric. I don't want anyone accusing me of minimizing mental issues. And I wish there were other words to describe. I'll say eccentric. I like some of his eccentricity. He's out looking for aliens. I mean, I like it. I think it's a no-brainer depending on what your definition of alien is. But I saw him really not. I'm not going to say towing the line, but I saw him really getting heavily into the MSM, getting emotionally involved. Now, maybe he is, for whatever the reason, emotionally attached in this conflict, and so he has family on one side or the other. But I was surprised to see, based on some of the lyrics in some of his songs, I was surprised to see it. Actually, she used the word acronym. She literally thinks honk is an acronym for hail, bad guy from WW2, which would actually be the acronym for HH, not honk. No, she said honk honk because of putting two together, HH, and that's how you got it. These are the people we have in government now. Well, wait until we get to the people we have in government now. I love Blink 182 as well. I still love them, and I actually love the new singer that took the place of Tom DeLonge. Just a totally random parenthesis. I can't imagine what it feels like to be the new band member coming in to replace Tom DeLonge in Blink 182. The pressure, the feeling of almost like you're a fraud, that you have no business here, the feeling like you're effectively having a very intimate relationship with someone else's partner. Dude came into Blink as Blink had 20 years of legacy, and a total stranger. I've never met the guy. I've known Blink since I was with my wife, girlfriend at the time, in Paris at a concert. 500 people in the venue. It was the best concert of my life. I've known Blink for 20 years, and now they're throwing some straight. It's like replacing a character mid series. How difficult a role that has to be to assume, and he's done it well. I forget his name. If anyone knows, let me know. Tom DeLonge is aliens crazy though. Seriously. Thank you. Total parentheses closed. But my goodness. Oh. Ketanji Brown is the best they could have done. Okay. I had a thought as I was driving my kid to school this morning. 3,000 years ago, the ancient Greek philosophers, the intellectual cream of the crop at the time, they came up with moral political philosophy. They came up with social theories. They came up with the observations of the essence of humankind. The top thinkers of 2022 can't say what a woman is. And you imagine in 3,000 years' time, they're still going to look back at Aristotle, Socrates. They're going to look back at the classic thinkers, Descartes, these people who really, had the insights of insights as the greatest thinkers of their time. And they're going to compare it to the greatest thinkers of our time. People who either can't or are reluctant or who lack the intellectual fortitude and the spiritual strength to say what a woman is as they take the highest court of the land. I just think people are going to look back at this era and they're going to look at politicians, they're going to look at medical experts, they're going to look at scientists, and they're going to say, there is no mind that is beyond parasitic infiltration to channel little Gad Sad. So-called hate speech is extremely subjective and dangerously so, as loud leftist sycophants solely hold the keys of the Overton window. I like the way that is said. It's true. Because it always starts off as the most egregious, clear-cut examples of hate speech, and then it literally turns into, if you call me dude in certain contexts, that's hate speech. And I've seen, I never even knew it was a thing until I saw it on Twitter. One form of free speech that's never been censored is talking about Bigfoot and aliens. True, but the one, and I dare say the one that was actually promoted, you say hate free speech. Oh no, the one form of free speech that had been promoted for a long time, and I think there was a political motivation for doing so, was flat earth free speech, because I think that was being promoted by the powers that be as the pretext to write off anybody who dares question anything as one of those. So, yeah. All right, well, we do got to get to the bad Canadian stuff. Let me see here. What happened to the Michaels in China? Oops, I mean Pat King and Mr. George. So Pat King, I looked into it. Pat King, the convoy organizer who actually was not a convoy organizer, still sitting in jail. And his hearing, I think he was supposed to be, I thought it was this week, and I looked it up and there was no update. So I don't know when still in jail, by the way. But what I can tell you, and I'm going to try to make my way down to Ottawa for the hearing on Thursday. Randy Hillier, who I know is being represented by David Anber. Let me see this. There's a hearing on Thursday. What day is it today? It's Tuesday. There's a hearing on Thursday in Ottawa. I don't think that's going to be Zoom, and I don't think it's going to be televised. So I think I'm going to drive down, sit in on the hearing, and then do a live stream, maybe a talkie live stream on the way back to let everyone know what's going on. So stay tuned for that. And I'm going to be in Ottawa over the weekend. I don't know if I'm going to go down and stay overnight Saturday, but I'm going to go down either Saturday and Sunday, but definitely Sunday for Operation Rolling Thunder. What is supposed to be not a protest, a rally, a show of respect to the war monument by war veterans. And I talked about this the other day that, they can't have vehicles in the vicinity because, yeah, you can protest only the way the government tells you, when they can tell you, how they tell you to do it, for how long they tell you to do it. And you never know when it becomes illegal, but the government will tell you when it's become illegal and then go after you with the full force of a highly politically weaponized police force, judicial force, government force. Our burnt out Blink sweatshirts to save you. You're welcome. I hate bees. I hate any stinging insect, but spiders, I don't have as much of a problem with spiders. Even when they crawl up my freaking sleeve. You guys want to? No, I'm not going to show you my wife always tells me nobody wants to see my injuries and nobody wants to see my broken pinky toe. Ooh, sorry. Force of habit. All right. We demand freedom for Pat King. This is one of those situations where there might be more to the story. He's had many lawyers and that has delayed hearings, interrupted hearings. It should never have been an issue in the first place. And lawyers, it goes without saying, by the way, but unfortunately, it's not the world we live in. Lawyers should not face ethics complaints from non-clients In fact, sometimes from other professionals. I'm not speaking on my own behalf here. Lawyers should not receive ethics complaints from non-clients, sometimes other professionals, simply because of who they are representing. I mean, it's mind-boggling that there are some people out there who are so vengeful, so politically motivated, or so ideologically ignorant, naive, that they think it's justified to file ethics complaints against lawyers because of the clients that they are representing. It's not about who you are representing, it's about how you are representing them. And if you think it's a good world in which people feel intimidated into not taking certain clients because of social pressure, ethics complaints, you might just be the tyrant that you purport to want to be protecting us from. Show us the toe. It's a very cool thing. I flat out broke my pinky toe in half. It was so shocking, the pain. I kicked a bike pump just by accident as I'm walking through the house, and I heard a snap. Excruciating, like seeing red pain. And then the next day, the entire base of my foot is totally purple, but they don't do anything for broken toes. The bone healed totally unattached. So I can physically just turn my toe a full 90 degrees to the left. It doesn't hurt anymore, with absolutely no ability to stop it. It really freaks out the kids. I'll tell you that much. Kids find it fascinating. That sounds a little weird the way I say it, but I impressed my kids' daycare class with it. Okay, serious question. I know I'm always making jokes. John Ritterhoff. It's who I am. Burning your country's flag, free speech. This is a hard one for me because I'm a veteran. I say it should be allowed. I obviously think it's reprehensible, but it should be allowed. It's one of those things. Like, okay, fine. And John Ritterhoff, I'll ask you this then. Burning a religious book. You say burning the flag. No, you start creating these not sanctimonious is what the word I'm looking for, but like the quasi-religious holiness of certain things. The flag. Who is this? It seems that my car is ready. You start creating these arbitrary, stigmatized levels. Like, you just can't do that. A foreign flag, fine, but not your own flag. Okay, no religious textbooks, no kippas. I mean, all this. It makes you I think it makes you. I question the judgment of anybody who does it, thinking it proves a point. But they should have the right to do it, I think. And more importantly, I'd like to know who they are. So, sacred is the word. Booty call. No. 21 years of marriage. The booty call does not come when the children are awake. I can tell you that much. Marriage pro tip. Okay. Viva, you want a toe? I can get you a toe. Jeez. And now I just had the immediate flash of season 1, episode 1 of Dexter. Okay. Just because you're allowed to do a thing doesn't make you not. Well, that's another thing. It's like, you think people should be allowed to say racist things. I mean, it makes them a-holes. But I mean, to some extent, I would like to know who are the people that I would consider to be my ideological enemies. I'd like to know who the people are that I consider to be, who don't like me. I'd like to know, and in as much as it's possible to not convert people in that sense, but to change people, let's engage in dialogue, because every now and again it works. Okay, so with that said, let me see with that said, people, we've had enough. We've had a nice. It's been wonderful on the ears, wonderful on the eyes thus far. Let's change that. Oh, that might be hate speech. One of it. One day in the future, calling a politician a psychopathic liar might be hate speech. One day calling the politician a petty tyrant might be hate speech. But listen to this.
Third week of illegal blockades.
Hold on, let's just...
On Monday,
as
we entered the third week of illegal blockades and occupations, the federal government invoked the Emergencies Act. We did it to protect families and small businesses, to protect jobs and the economy. We did it because the situation could not be dealt with under any other law in Canada.
Liar! Liar!
On Monday, as we enter
Liar. Liar. And it's not, I don't understand the law. It's not, I'm just exaggerating. It's not, as we say in French, bon dol, good fraud. You know, like when you're selling a car, you say, this is the best car on the market. Everyone knows that that's not intended to be a factual statement. It's good. What do they call it? There's an English term for it. Bon dol, as we say in French. This guy says, we did it. We did it. Because, hold on, actually, let me just do this here. Burning Bibles and flags is completely disrespectful type of defamation. The U.S. has a law against disrespecting the flag. Viva, love your humor. And then we're going to get into, yes, it's worse than verbal diarrhea. What is worse than verbal? We need next step worse than verbal diarrhea. I want to just highlight the part where it's the lie.
We did it because the situation could not be dealt with under any other law in Canada.
Liar!
I'd like to ask you a question, Justin Trudeau. Everybody who was charged with a crime, I mean, we're going to get to it, by the way, because there was only one thing that they did that could not have been done under any other existing law. There was only one thing. Chat, if you know what that one thing is, put it in the chat before I get to it. Everyone who has been charged with a crime from their participation in that unlawful protest was charged under an existing law. There was no other law. What did he say again? What did he say? Hold on. Jeez, I gotta punish you and everyone else in here. What did he say?
Not be dealt with. Could not be dealt with. Economy. We did it because the situation could not be dealt with under any other law in Canada.
Liar!
We did it because the situation could not be dealt with under any other law in Canada. Everyone charged was charged with under an existing law. What was a situation that couldn't be dealt with under any other existing law in Canada? Trucks parked illegally. Oh, I'll call it the trucks were parked illegally. Of course, it's a bylaw infraction. It's not a criminal infraction. So they were parked unlawfully. When you double park your car, it's illegal, but it's not a crime. It's a statutory offense. So there were laws to ticket the cars. There were laws to tow the cars. There were laws to prevent honking. Well, there were nuisance laws. There were measures. The court came in and said injunction against the horn honking. And by the way, people don't really appreciate this. It wasn't just horn honking at large. It was specific. What do they call them? Train horns, powered horns, truck horns. It was specific horn honking. There was nothing that occurred in those 3 weeks that could not have been dealt with under any other existing law, except, hold on, let's see if the chat got it. Freezing of the bank accounts, except the freezing of the bank accounts. Freezing accounts. Okay, chat. The chat's good. Not parked when inside it. No, it is in fact. But yeah, it doesn't matter. The freezing of the bank accounts was the only thing that they could not do under any existing law. Why? Because it's fundamentally unlawful. The arbitrary, it is a charter right. I mean, I'm not pulling up the charter now because I didn't think I was going to get to this part, but it's a charter right, unlawful search and seizure. Freezing your bank account is nothing more than seizing private property, done without court order, in the absence of any criminal charges, in the absence of any charges whatsoever, at the direction of the government who immunized the banks for doing it, or who promised to immunize the banks. There was only one crime that was committed for which there was no existing laws to deal with, and it was seizing of the bank accounts. Nothing else and nothing else, full stop, could not have been dealt with under existing laws, except for authorizing, instructing the seizure, the freezing of bank accounts, and promising to immunize the banks for doing it. This is worth $20. I have to give you props because you're one of the very select set of people that didn't butcher my last name the first time you read it. That's impressive. Most impressive. Most impressive. Ritterhoff. Well, it's a good last name. Now I just have to go Google what it means because I'm fairly certain that is of Germanic origin, if I had to guess. It's an outright egregious lie. It's a bold-faced lie. There's a whole side thing going on, by the way, with I saw the post. I forget who the guy is. Someone sent it to me. People, I get way too many messages to be able to address them all, but someone sent me, I don't know his name, a bearded guy. He speaks well, talking about Diagolon. I haven't been able to independently confirm and verify the story that the individual is saying, that they started this rumor about some rogue entity called Diagolon, and that's what members of parliament were relying on to justify the invocation of the Emergencies Act. I don't yet have enough information to have an opinion on or even have verified the rumorings. I know the chat's going to know more about this than I do, the Diagolon. But it was a lie. Our prime minister got up in front of parliament and lied to the country. And it's not just that he lied to the country. I was weighing all of the words that I wanted to come out of my mouth right there. It's not just that he lied to the country. The man of the people, Jagmeet Singh, after saying that, Trudeau, his response to the protests was awful, incompetent, voted with Justin Trudeau on this. So you know who you cannot ever trust again in politics. And you think it's fine now because he did it to the protesters and you don't like those protesters. Jagmeet Singh has proven that he's even worse than Justin Trudeau, because I have no doubt Justin Trudeau knows exactly why he's doing it. Jagmeet Singh aided and abetted a pathological liar in the desecration of our Charter of Rights. Do you know if there's an expiration date on the flight vaccine passport mandate? Maybe it won't be removed. If not, when? Well, there's lawsuits. They're going to drop. They have to drop it. I just don't know when. When they start getting made fun of on Tucker Carlson again, because Canada is a backward, tyrannical, authoritarian regime that openly discriminates against its own citizens' medical conditions in the absence of any possible. Let me. Hashtag no medical advice. This is the legislative side of it. In the absence of any legislative debate, of any public debate, of any scientific evidence being presented for the purposes of adopting this discriminatory legislation, Justin Trudeau, because it's 2020, enacting policy that he knows is having a disparate impact on Black Canadians, Indigenous Canadians, Latino Canadians, you may as well say we're making it harder in Canada for Black, Latino, Indigenous children, 12 and up, to fly and travel within the country. That is what it is. So when are they gonna backtrack on this, like they've backtracked on all the other garbage? When there's enough public outcry, public shame, public humiliation, and international mockery. Or who knows? Maybe they'll double down again, like Trudeau did, bringing in the militarized police force. It's actually Dutch, and the meaning is Ritter, gentleman, on horseback, Hof, area of a town or town square. Gentleman on a horse of the square, loosely translated, knight of the square. Well, I like your avatar as well. Looks like you're into some skydiving and military training stuff. Thank you very much, John. That's fantastic. It's cool. I love the origins of last names. There is you can tell a lot, not about a person, but of the history that formed a person by last names. So when is it going to happen? I don't know. But it will happen. And you know what? Again, history will not be kind, politically speaking, to these people for what they've done now. Just 12 years old and over. In order to fly or take a train in Canada, you have to show proof of vaccination. 12 and over, if you come into Canada and you are not vaccinated and not exempt, they require 12-year-olds who are not exempt and older, but let's just take 12-year-olds, to quarantine for no less than 14 days when coming in. Vaccinated 12-year-olds do not have to quarantine. Negative test, I don't even think they have to get tested, actually. But an unvaccinated 12-year-old who could have crossed the border to go grocery shopping in Albany, if they are unvaccinated and not exempt, coming back, have to quarantine for 14 days. You tell me what that is, if not medical discrimination. And by the way, who is more likely to be underrepresented in the vaccination column? Black Canadians, Indigenous Canadians, Latino Canadians. And by the way, and women who may not want to run certain risks, potential issues with menstruation. Black Canadians, Indigenous Canadians, Latino Canadians, women with legitimate concerns, and Justin Trudeau comes out and calls those people racists and misogynist extremists. We're not done with this. Shalom. Is it possible to apply for U.S. citizenship as a medical refugee? I don't know. Boostrom. But hello right back at you. No, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be a question that I'll ask Barnes on Sunday, because there are going to be people who are going to try to make that claim. You imagine if it continues like this. I mean, how is this not some form of political persecution? 12-year-olds. Can you imagine the idea of quarantining a healthy 12-year-old who's tested negative simply because she or he has not had a vaccine? The idea of quarantining a healthy 12-year-old for 14 days is child abuse. I don't care that the government thinks they found a justification for it. 2 years ago, that would have gotten 2.5 years ago, that would have gotten a parent put in jail. But now, because the government tells you to do it, it becomes morally justified. Hold on, I just saw something here. Texas. Dude, one day, Viva, you and your family welcome. One day I'm going to get to Texas. I'm going to go alligator gar fishing, because I've seen the alligator gar fish in Texas look like the sturgeon in British Columbia. Beasts. I agree, Viva. It's like, thank you. But I mean, it's forcing a 12-year-old kid to quarantine for 14 days, healthy, negative test, because they're not vaccinated and they don't have an exemption. That would and should get people locked up in ordinary times for doing it. Okay, but now on the subject, by the way, because we're not done with Trudeau, and we're not done with what's going on, because this is you want to talk about what $600 million will buy you in terms of media coverage, what $1 billion subsidy annually to the CBC and Radio Canada will buy you annually. Listen to this. Okay, I'm going to ask the chat what you guys think of this in terms of how it sounds. CBC News. Let me just make sure we're looking at the same thing. We are. Did I see? No. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Here. This is from CBC. True, and play like the proud music that CBC would play if this were being read on TV. Trudeau calls public inquiry into use of Emergencies Act during convoy protests. Official inquiry into the federal government's use of the Emergency Act, headed by Ontario judge. I'm asking you in the chat. You read this. Trudeau calls public inquiry. I read this and I was like, oh, that's benevolent of Justin Trudeau. I don't want to taint. I already poisoned the pool. When this headline says Trudeau calls public inquiry, do you think that makes Justin Trudeau look good or bad? Do you think this headline is intended to frame it as though Justin Trudeau is doing something benevolent, responsible, by calling an inquiry? Let's see. 1 for yes, it makes him look benevolent. 2, neutral or no. So it says scared. Okay, interesting. Scared, bad, arrest Trudeau. Yes. Okay. Don't spoil this. I guess I'm spoiling the surprise. KL hugs. I read that headline. I was like, oh, and I read the headline and I was like, why would he call an inquiry into the use of it? I mean, if anything, I think he wants to avoid revisiting this idea ever. I think he wants to avoid the idiotic debates that occurred in the context of that invocation, the dishonest statements that he made to members of parliament, to Canadian citizens in the context of that charade debacle constitutional desecration of the adoption, the invocation of the Emergency Act. If I were him, I would never want to speak of it again, because nothing good is going to come out of shedding sunlight on that. Nothing good is going to come up of unpacking that wound. So I was like, oh, why would he be doing that? I mean, good for him, I thought for a second. Let's just read the article. This article doesn't tell you the punchline. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau called Monday for the establishment of an inquiry into the use of the Emergencies Act. He called for it. It's his decision. In a news release, Trudeau said come on, dude. Producer. In a news release, Trudeau said an independent public inquiry called the Public Order Emergency Commission, POEC, the POC, would be created to examine the circumstances leading to the declaration being issued. Trudeau invoked the act for the first time in Canada's history during the Freedom Convoy, because there was no other law in Canada that could have resolved people parking their cars on Capitol Hill. Is it Capitol Hill? No, it's on Parliament Hill. Okay. Yada, yada, yada. Okay, they got a judge. Trudeau said in a statement, Rouleau would look into the circumstances. Okay, fine. Critics say inquiry won't scrutinize the government. Those critical of the government's decision to invoke the act describe the inquiry as overly focused on the actions of protesters and the role played by fundraising and disinformation in the event. Okay. Conservatives argue the Liberals are using the approach to deflect attention from the government's own actions and decisions. Yada, yada, yada. The Canadian Civil Liberties Association, which is suing the federal government over its decision to invoke the act, said the inquiry does not appear to be focused on government accountability. Mendocino, by the way, this is the guy who said that, they had to invoke the act because there were threats of a very specific type of assault of a sexual nature. This is what this guy actually said with a straight face to justify invoking the Emergencies Act. He drafted the invocation document, whatever it is. Mendocino told reporters that Rouleau will have broad access, including to classified documents, but there do appear to be limits on the information that can be disclosed through the inquiry. Justin Trudeau limit information that can be disclosed through a publicly ordered inquiry, because we're going to get there. The order in council that sets out rules for the inquiry calls on the commissioner to avoid disclosing information that could be injurious to Canada's international relations, defense, and security. My goodness. Okay, and it goes on. But remember this, by the way, and if I forget to do it, remind me, we have to talk about the article about Justin Trudeau, the RCMP deciding not to investigate Justin Trudeau. Because we'll get to it. It would not have been in the public's best interest to press criminal charges for fraud against Justin Trudeau for what they obviously thought might have been fraud in what he did with Aga Khan and, bribery potentially. But so the government is telling you how you can protest, when you can protest. They unilaterally declare it unlawful, and they're going to limit what you can see in the scrutiny, which is not a decision that Justin Trudeau made. It's not a benevolent act of transparency. It's in the law. It's in the law, and Justin Trudeau had no choice but to declare this inquiry. He had no choice. And so CBC frames it as Justin Trudeau's calling it. He's decided to do it. He's announced the formation of this inquiry, and he set out certain criteria as to what can be disclosed in this benevolent act. He has to do it by law. And the first indicator, just take another article, which is just to see how different outlets cover this. Trudeau announces Emergencies Act inquiry. Justice Paul Rouleau can have people testify in public and demand the government provide documents. This is more of the same, but it was somewhere in here that it gave the indication. Here we go. This article mentions it. The government was legally required to announce an inquiry within 60 days of the revocation of the act, a clock that ran out on Monday. They were legally required to do it. CBC frames it like Justin Trudeau decided to do it, and in his decision to do it, he's deciding what they can access in the context of this legally required inquiry. Does it sound familiar like other things? Like people will think I'm a theorist if I talk about the fact that the government was training Chinese soldiers on Canadian soil for wintertime military exercises. I don't think they're going to give us all the information on that. There's other cases as well where they're not going to give us all the information. We Charity scandal, other scandals. The inquiry, in addition to the parliamentary committee studying the invocation, which will hear from Public Safety Minister Marco Mendicino and Justice Minister David Lametti. By the way, go check out these two guys' Twitter feeds. Marco Mendicino and David Lametti. Follow them on Twitter and understand that these are the individuals that have wield so much power in Canadian politics. So National Post mentions that it's a legal requirement. And don't trust me. Don't trust the National Post. Trust the law. Here, from the Emergencies Act. I hope this is the right section. Inquiry. Justice.qc.ca. The governor in council shall, not may, not can, shall. That's a legal requirement. Within 60 days after the expiration or revocation of a declaration of emergency, cause an inquiry to be held into the circumstances that led to the declaration being issued and the measures taken for dealing with the emergency. Report to Parliament. A report of an inquiry held pursuant to this section shall be laid before each House of Parliament within 360 days. For those of you who are not good at math, that is 5 days less of a year after the expiration or revocation of the declaration of power of emergency. He had to do it. There was no benevolence. He had no discretion, but they frame it as though it was a decision, as though he had discretion, and as though he has the discretion to limit the scope of the inquiry, because it certainly does sound like he's limiting the inquiry to say, we have to go inquire as to how bad those protesters were that they made me do this. When I'm not sure that that's the exact reason of the inquiry. When you shred the Constitution, so let me rephrase. When you make a decision to basically break out the nuclear weapon of laws, you better bring the receipts as to why you did it afterwards. It is for transparency of government, not so that the government can weaponize the inquiry to go reinvestigate the people that it spent the last 3 months politically persecuting. But leave it up to Justin Trudeau to turn it into that. This inquiry, which is supposed to be to expose and make transparent the government's decision to invoke the nuclear weapon of legislation, they're going to turn it into a politically weaponized tool to use government resources to go further investigate those bad protesters that made the government use the Emergencies Act. And it's par for the course with a petty tyrant who has no respect for the Charter of Rights and great admiration for the basic dictatorship that is China. And that is his quote, not me putting words in Justin Trudeau's mouth. Dude, learn and do a segment on the law of declining virulence. Viruses decline in lethality. Even the horrible Spanish flu only lasted 2 years. No medical advice. No election fortification advice. No legal advice. Now let me just go refresh and see if we just got demonetized for. It literally just got demonetized. I mean, it was. And by the way, I'm joking. It probably was me railing against Supreme Leader Justin Trudeau. If I do one of those, I'll get a doctor on, and I'll do it on Rumble exclusive, so that we can actually have a meaningful conversation. I'm just going to get to some super chats before going to the decision. We've invested. My I don't want to say secret police. My police have decided not to investigate me. Why aren't the courts stepping in? It's before the courts now. It's going to be a matter of time. And unfortunately, the court system is a question of hurry up and wait. And you wait 2 years for a decision on the merits, and you might still be unhappy. Barkable. How long before Elon buys Canada and fires Justin? Okay, look, only because it's there. Only because it's there. Hold on. Let's just go back to my Twitter feed. I made the joke. Here we go. This meme took me like 3 hours to do. This is based on an actual exchange between Red Letter Dave, I think it's Dave Smith, and Elon from 2017. It said, "I love Twitter." Dave Smith said, "You should buy it then." He says, "How much?" So because I'm so funny, and it took a long time to do that. I hope it was worth it. Yeah. He could buy it. You can't save a people who don't want to save themselves. It's not, people voted for Jagmeet Singh. People voted for Justin Trudeau. They voted for their oppressors. Some people feel freer in the shackles. They feel, it's like Lonely Island YOLO. Oh geez. Oh, come on. It's the part where they said pull your teeth out so you can't bite your tongue. Some people feel the need to remove their teeth to protect themselves from biting their own tongue. EMA invoked BC of Diagolon, meme country. God, someone tag me on some of these tweets so I can find it. Why is there no legal way to remove Trudeau from office with all the egregious things he has done? 3.5 years. We're going to get to it actually, because the Ethics Act, whatever it is, it doesn't have the power to remove someone, but when someone gets, found guilty under the Ethics Act of having breached the Ethics Act twice, the solution is supposed to be the political solution. You're not supposed to re-elect someone who's been twice convicted of ethics breaches, but third time's a charm. Maybe we'll see. Maybe then Canadians will learn. Montreal family of 5 were all unvied by choice and leave country. Where are we? In Cuba. It's good fishing in Cuba. And you leave, but then the question is if you ever have to come back. I mean, you're gonna 2 weeks of your life, unless they not ratify. What's the word? Unless they revoke or rescind these orders. Injurious to international relations. Wasn't Trudeau's total pasting by world leaders injury enough? No doubt injury. You know what it is? Maybe he was spying on other political. I don't know. Injurious to international relations. Any excuse to control the information. Pierre Duranlot says, "Oh, sorry, I got that already." Mendocino said the judge is qualified to determine the Emergencies Act was used appropriately, not that the judge is qualified to investigate. All in the language. It's interesting. I mean, I might have to have Keith Wilson on, or another lawyer who would, this is uncharted territory for most lawyers because the Emergencies Act had never been invoked. So clearly they had never issued the inquiry that they are lawfully required to issue underneath in virtue of it. So it's not clear who determines the scope of the inquiry and what the scope of the inquiry is. But you know darn well what they're going to try to do. They're going to try to turn it like a January 6th committee, which is not to investigate how January 6th could have been allowed to occur. It's to investigate and prosecute and desecrate the Constitution as relates to every one of the accused. Much love and God bless. A lot of people have forgotten that Canada is still doing the VPs. Love you all from America. It's they don't do it provincially anymore. They've rescinded the provincial vaccine passports. So now luckily 13-year-olds who choose not to get vaccinated can play sports after school after a year of psychological abuse, and they wonder why kids are having issues now these days. January 6th Commission, Canada style. Yep, 100%. Okay, so let me see one other thing here before we get. Someone said Canada is already sold. Well played, whoever said that. Viva. I read it and definitely believe JT intended to use it as a reverse psychology. It was meant for who still believe as a PM there's only one choice going forward. Viva for PM. Don't get your hopes up, Lisa. But thank you for the super chat and the encouragement. Okay, I'm not going to bring up some of these. Psychological warfare, without a doubt. Viva, your hair looks good. What shampoo and conditioner are you using? I don't know. I know I'm using some really old bottle of hair oil. But I noticed it's the grays do not come out. The grays are not coming out quite as much now because I've changed the lighting a little bit. Viva, I need a favor. Patrick Lancaster has not dropped a video in a few days. Don't know if he was canceled on YouTube. I do not have Twitter. Can you check? His Twitter is PL News Today. Patrick Lancaster was the other reporter on the ground in UK. Some people don't like him because of what he says. PL News today. It seems that his last tweet was 1 day ago. We just got word that a friend of ours. Okay, so his last tweet was 1 day ago, and the last tweet before that was 3 days ago. So it doesn't look like he's super active on Twitter. In any event, I'll ask. I know Barnes follows him closely, as everyone would know if you follow us on vivabarneslaw.locals.com. So I'll see what the deal is. Also, word on the street that Gonzalo Lira hadn't posted in 12 hours. So, okay. So I got to everything. I think Viva doesn't want to be PM. This place has gone too far down the toilet to plunge. Yeah. Okay, I'm trying to see some. Oh, I did send an email to Jugmeat saying how much he should be ashamed of himself. I see the rabbit, and all I immediately thought was Donnie Darko. Yeah, email your representatives and let them know. Now, let me see. Do I have the article up? The Emergencies Act? No. Pretty please, Elon Musk? No. All right, let's go to. I'm going to go to this window because I'll be able to find it easily. Are we seeing the same thing? You won't believe this. I mean, you want to talk about a banana republic and what a banana republic dictatorship looks like. Let me see this. RCMP investigates, forget the typos, Trudeau, public interest, Aga Khan. Lots of typos, but I'll get it here. Here we go. Which one do I want to get? Let's go with McLean's right now. I haven't read this one. I read the other one. No. Hold on. What is okay? So RCMP. This is McLean's. I'll get to the substance. I haven't read this article, and I saw a word here that RCMP considered charging Justin Trudeau over Aga Khan visit. Politics Insider for April 26. Trudeau calls. Oh, so Trudeau calls for an inquiry. Ottawa braces for another convoy. Panel warns about neo-Nazism. My goodness. So it's not turtles all the way down. It's steaming emoji, poop emojis all the way down. Charge now for. I'll get to charge dodge. The RCMP considered charging Justin Trudeau with fraud after his trip to the Aga Khan's Bahama Island, but decided against it because it seems Trudeau had the authority to approve the trip himself, the Globe reports. RCMP documents from 2019 reveal Mounties looked at whether they could charge Trudeau based on the findings in a report from the Federal Ethics Commissioner, which concluded that Mr. Trudeau had violated 4 sections of the Conflict of Interest Act. This was his first violation. This was before SNC Lavalin's second conviction. This was before the third inquiry into the We Charity scandal. Investigators believed there were reasonable grounds to think fraud may have been committed, but lack of clarity in federal rules that apply to accepting gifts stood in the way. No. Let me rephrase this for you. The lack of will to submit it to the judicial process got in the way. Ambiguity in the laws. By the way, let me just bring this back up. Oh, I just stopped sharing it. Wrong thing. You have to appreciate how ass backwards this is. But a lack of clarity in federal rules stood in the way. If there's a lack of clarity in a law, how does it ever get tested? How does it ever get clarified if it doesn't go to a court for adjudication? But I'm going to say the lack of clarity. What they said, let me see if this article uses the term public. That's not how you spell public in any realm of the world. Here we go. Stop. The relevant section of the criminal code has a provision which allows officials to accept benefits if they have written consent from the head of their branch of government. RCMP Corporal Michael Kiperchuk said in a briefing note to his superiors that, quote, an investigation and prosecution under this section may not be in the public interest if it cannot be definitively determined whether or not Mr. Trudeau can simply provide consent to himself. It may not be in the public interest if it cannot be definitively determined whether or not Justin Trudeau can give himself permission. You know how you resolve that? You litigate that and you determine in a court of law whether or not Justin Trudeau can give permission to himself to accept gifts. And by the way, just so everybody may know, what is this? I do not, oh, guy, get over here. You are unfortunately blocked. That is the only sex bots get blocked. I mean, it's a Kafka novel. It's not in the public interest because it cannot be definitively determined. You know how you definitively determine if a crime was committed? You go to trial. Is there probable cause to believe that a crime might have been committed? Well, you have someone thinking he might have committed fraud under the criminal code. You have a conviction of a breach of ethics under the ethics code. But his RCMP, by the way, I'm fairly certain. Let me just see something here. I'm fairly certain. For those of you who don't know, by the way, Justin Trudeau, the whole issue is that Aga Khan is a philanthropist. He was petitioning the federal government for tens of millions of dollars. I think he got like $50-60 million from the federal government at the same time that he gifted Justin Trudeau an all expenses paid trip to the Aga Khan Island. Justin Trudeau accepted this gift without declaring it at the same time that Aga Khan was petitioning the government. It's, could seem like little, here's a big, fat, luxurious gift. Take your family to Aga Khan private island RCMP. And Trudeau took it, didn't disclose it. And, was found to be in breach of the ethics code. That was his first of two. But hold on a second, because I think he had. So the RCMP, by the way, they decided it's not in their best interest to press criminal charges. The RCMP, if my recollection was correct, was with Justin Trudeau as his security when he took this unlawful gift to the Aga Khan Island. RCMP not planning to reimburse cost of stay on Aga Khan's island. Critics says not repaying the $56,000 for meals. You guys appreciate what's going on in this country? Accommodations and jet skis would be dangerously unethical. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the same one deciding not to press charges against Trudeau because it wouldn't be in the public interest. The same RCMP do not plan to reimburse the more than $56,000 in expenses its officers racked up for meals, accommodation, and jet ski rentals during Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's unlawful, because he actually was found. I don't think the report came out by this time. Controversial and unethical vacation on the Aga Khan's private island in the Caribbean, CBC News said. The RCMP says it made numerous attempts. The RCMP says it made numerous attempts to reimburse the managers of Bell. Okay. The RCMP considers the matter closed. The RCMP estimates the decision to close the books. Okay, this is irrelevant at this point. Here we go. Fortin says the RCMP's $56,000 plus for meals, accommodation, and personal watercraft rentals was above and beyond the costs of the trip that are already known. The RCMP was with Justin Trudeau on the island. And now, in fairness to the RCMP, as far as I understand, although maybe someone can confirm, I think the jet skis were not for their personal pleasure, afternoon type things. I think it was to keep Justin Trudeau, for security while Justin Trudeau was out on the ocean. I think. I don't know. Maybe they actually just use it for outright, even the RCMP needs a break when they're on the Aga Khan's private island with Justin Trudeau. Either way, the RCMP was there. And they have now, the RCMP, said there was reasonable grounds to think that a fraud may have been committed, but there's a little ambiguity in the law, so we're not going to do it. And they decided not to do it because RCMP Corporal Michael Kiperchuk said in a briefing in his notes, an investigation and prosecution under the section may not be in the public interest if it cannot be definitively determined whether or not Mr. Trudeau can simply provide consent to himself. The RCMP has investigated itself and decided not to investigate Justin Trudeau because it might actually result in an investigation of itself. Atrocious. It's atrocious. There's no other way to say it. There's no other way to say it. I want to see what the chat has to think about this. I haven't seen the chat in a little while because that argue. The truth is stranger than fiction. There is no question. Sorry, we can't afford to help our veterans. Yeah. The RCMP had reasonable grounds to suspect that fraud had been committed. They chose not to prosecute because there's ambiguity in the law. It wouldn't have been in the public interest. And lo and behold, wouldn't you know it, the very same RCMP was on the island with him, incurred $56,000 in taxpayer costs for accommodations, meals, and jet skis, which I hope were for security and not for pleasure, but I don't know. I do not know what this word means, and I'm going to look it up right now because I'm nervous and I don't want to get into trouble. I'm going to go ahead and it means the death of rational thought, menticide. Oh, actually, pretty good. Okay, I can say it. Do you know what menticide means? And I said the death of rational thought. It means brainwashing, also mind control, thought reform, and re-education. Is a concept that the human mind can be altered or controlled by certain psychological techniques. I think my wife, who's a postdoc in neurophysiology, could probably attest to this being true to some extent. You know, when we had the live stream with Alex Jones, and people talk about cell towers controlling your thoughts, and you know, I think Alex Jones said that hyperbolically. If you I mean, that's hyperbolic. That, you know, it's not going to tell you what to think. But if things can interfere with sleep patterns, if things can interfere, like physiological distress, physiological responses, I mean, that's a form of control. So it's hyperbolic, might be a little bit exaggerated, but there's still some science to it. And it's a known fact. If your cell phone emits a frequency that will disturb your sleep patterns. So that's why you have to sleep with your cell phone in another room or turn it on airplane. Menticide. It's interesting. Thank you. Did I bring this up here, by the way? What do you know about Judge Paul Rouleau? Nothing. I know nothing of Judge Paul Rouleau, 20 years experience, and I don't impugn the intentions or integrity or capability of any judges at large. I'll certainly, you know, I'll comment on decisions. The federal judge who said that quarantine hotels were not charter violations. You can look for political motivation, but I'll just disagree with the decision respectfully, as required by our code of ethics. Viva, I need it. Oh, okay, we got this. Okay, so that's it. I mean, that's you know, the RCMP has investigated their boss, with whom they just took a sweet vacation, and they've decided not to press charges because it would not be in the public interest, because it's not clear whether or not Justin Trudeau can authorize his own unethical actions. It's clown world. Careful. I'm not reading. I won't read part of this. Careful, Viva. Yeah, I hear the business. I mean, Tim Pool and yeah, no. Luckily, you know, in Canada, it's just they just freeze your bank accounts. They just go like they did to Randy Hillier. Go dissect a month worth of video footage to try to find a baseless allegation to serve as the basis for a baseless criminal charge that will get tossed. But in the meantime, you get your headlines. Randy Hillier, far-right eccentric, accused of assaulting a police officer. Not in the public interest. Can you imagine? The law is so ambiguous. We think there's a problem here, but we can't definitively determine it. Yeah, that's why you have a jury. That's why you have a trial. That's why you have evidence adduced and experts there to testify on the raison d'être of the law. That's why you have a trial. You don't have judge, jury, and executioner all in one from the people deciding whether or not they're going to investigate themselves, incidentally. So I actually only put that together as we were talking about it. RCMP saying, we've decided not to do it. It's like, dude, I remember the RCMP being on that island, zipping around on jet skis. Yes. Yeah, I was going to make an on a boat reference. Okay, I thought menticide. That would be menticide. So, why would you want to raise kids in today's world? If you raise them properly, you're going to raise them to be stronger. You're going to raise them to be more critically thoughtful. You're going to train them to be, you're going to raise them, not train, sorry, that's not a Freudian slip. Although I guess raising is a form of training, hopefully. You will raise them to be more thoughtful, more critical thinking, more analytical, more thoughtful, more empathetic. The world doesn't get better unless people make it better. Let me see here in the chat. I expected Clown World to be a lot more fun. It's like Waterworld. Except instead of being fun and entertaining, it's like the worst movie you've ever seen. Okay, I'm not going to read it. Thank you for the super chat. Do you know anything about? No, I don't. Screenshot. Oh, my computer uploaded. If you saw me on Twitter this morning, I click OK. 30 minutes. My computer's updating this morning, and now all these new widget thingies. Like I just screenshotted. I heard a new noise, like boop, boop, boop. Like they got to make the computer experience even more Las Vegas-y addictive. Schadenfreude. Learn to pronounce noun, pleasure derived from someone's. Oh yeah, Schadenfreude is if anyone has ever seen the movie, John Cusack was the voice. It's an animation. It's the guy's gosh. And there was Professor Schadenfreude was the professor. It means taking satisfaction in the suffering of others. What was the name of the movie? It was John Cusack. Oh, someone in the chat. Someone in the chat get it. I know I'll see it in a second. Amen. Viva. Testify. Rickardy69. What was the movie? John Cusack. And I can hear them saying, when they call all the characters were the same, like not minions, but they were all. Dude, if nobody gets it within 30 seconds, I got to go get it right now. It's going to drive me crazy. John Cusack, anime, Igor. Thank you. Damn it. Well done, Rick. Thank you. Waking Life is cool. I haven't seen that one in a long time. I'm going to have to go back and watch A Scanner Darkly again. Although I don't know where my DVD collection is. Okay, and I got that too. So anyways, those are the subjects. Well, who's got some questions in the chat that let me see. Do I have anything else that I wanted to talk about? That article that, and we only find out about it now, by the way. Why did we not learn about it at the time? Why did the RCMP not proudly announce we've come to the responsible decision and we think citizens have the right to know? I can give you 15 reasons why. None of them are good. Politics ruins everything. Let me just go back to my Twitter feed for my running diary. Oh, I see a new member in the house. Hold on a second. Gotta bring that up. Boom, shakalaka. Alaskan sauce. Dare I ask? Okay, that's a crab. Alaskan sauce. Welcome to the YouTube membership. The perks. I haven't been all that good on the perks, but just some membership perks, sneak peeks, and the like. Waking Life is amazing. Is Waking Life the one that was it was the animation that was done in the same style as you do awesome work, Viva. Glad to support you guys through locals as well. God bless. Dustin Van Pelt, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Angry Skeleton Cornman. That's why I bought a Faraday bag for my cell years ago. When it's not in use, it perma-lives in there, shut off. It drives everywhere I know. It drives everyone I know crazy. But that's what a landline is for. I trust landlines more. What's a Faraday bag? Am I totally naive for not knowing that? David Langford says, I have a little iPad and Viva did not cut out. No, I think I've been good this time. I see Ponton in the house, sir. Viva, the first mistake people make about mind control is believing it's physically applied condition. 99% of the time, it's done through subverting belief systems. The second is thinking they are immune. Yeah, I mean, I use, growing up, my dad always said, he's still alive, so I don't want anyone thinking like, when I quote my grandmother, she's no longer alive. My dad's still alive. He says, society can be whipped up into a frenzy very easily. And we've seen it's not quite that easily, but we see how quickly it happens, how efficiently it happens. And man, it's like being under the influence of an intoxicant when you don't even know that you're under the influence of it. Like, it's like losing all of your ego, except you're losing all of your You're using all of your critical thought. You don't even know that you're whipped up into this frenzy. You think it makes sense to cross the street to avoid passing someone on the streets. You think it makes sense to be outside, gardening with a face mask alone. And you just, it's like you're under the influence of a drug and you do not know that you're under the influence of the drug, and everything just, you do not appreciate that you've lost touch with reality. It took 2 years, maybe it took a year. It happened it happened quickly for a lot of people. And how do you get them out of it? My goodness. That has to, the only time can heal these certain wounds. Oh, Faraday. Okay, okay, cool, interesting. I didn't know that. Death of logic. Let's see what we got. Did Mackon win the election fair and square? I mean, I don't know. Are we allowed talking about foreign elections? I would venture to say, I know people were questioning the results in Canada, and I didn't. And people didn't like that I didn't. People said, Viva, you saw what happened in the States. You have to be skeptical and cynical of what happened in Canada. No. First of all, Canada is paper-based. I saw what went into the election system. You have to show ID. They got to bar your name off at the entrance, 2 IDs, and proof of domicile. You bar your name off at the entrance. They bar your name off when you fill out the form. And it's paper. The problem is, it's like, the guy who does the magic tricks, David Blaine, when he was trying to do the trick about staying underwater for more than 20 minutes, world record underwater. He's like, at first he was thinking of like injecting oxygen needles into his body, injecting oxygen enriched blood. And he's like, at some point, you just it's easier just to do it. In Canada, don't need to worry about any of these election issues. Just control the media, control the narrative, suppress the voice and the reach of your adversaries. You don't need to go and play stupid games. You can just do it from the ground up. Please do not listen to any naysayers about Viva for PM. You are light. Bring Canada and Canadians out of the darkness because you are so awake. Star emojis. What was the song by Tom McDonald? 1 million flame emojis. Now you know your Viva for PM. Thank you very much, Lisa. When will Canada apologize for 1812 DC damages? Don't give Trudeau any ideas, man. There is nothing that Trudeau will not apologize for as he continues to commit. He'll apologize for the wrongs of governments past while committing his own atrocities in real time. Because he looks benevolent while abusing you. I hear a kid screaming his head off. Barb Justice. I like it. Justice. I saw a lot of super chats come through here. No Toe Tuesday. No, we can't do that. One day we'll see. Okay, fair enough. But look, the reality is, people voted for Trudeau. I saw people vote for Trudeau. They told me in my district they voted for Trudeau because some of them they don't even realize that they're under the influence of fake news. They still think Maxime Bernier is a racist. And they think I'm an anti-Semite for running with the PPC. I know there can be some self-hating Jews out there, but that's how engrossed in their own delusion they are. They don't even understand that they're in it. Try to tell someone that, they don't necessarily respond well, and I'm not necessarily the one to weigh my words when I do it. A Faraday bag blocks radio waves. Think of it as analog phone blocker. What's an analog phone? I'm joking. No rogue signal. No, it works very well for me anyway. Very cool. But I also know, like, too much temptation to have your phone in the room while you're sleeping. It should be somewhere else. Trying to impute that. I try to impart that on my children, but then they see that my screen time is like 8.5 hours on my phone a day, and they don't understand it's for work. It's for, yeah, but what is that? Okay, look, I'm just telling you, I don't believe that there was that type of chicanery in the Canadian election system. The chicanery in the Canadian election system was manipulating the polls to get the result that you needed to make sure that Maxime Bernier did not get to attend the federal leaders debate. That's the chicanery. The chicanery that I saw is fake news on daytime radio. It is the CBC doing the least they can possibly do to say, at least we gave them a voice. Doing an interview with me and then not putting that interview on the website so that I could share it with my 1 million+ aggregate across all platform of people who listen to what I have to say. That's how they do it. Control the news. I went door to door and hung up posters all over the city, worked one person at a time to get them to listen and to go out and vote. CBC just gets them all at once. What's the word I'm looking for? Platonically. Thank you very much, by the way. It's so that's it. I mean, it's like, I don't think they needed to get into that level of chicanery in Canada. I think paper-based is obviously the better system. Okay, hold on. I think I screenshot this before. Do I want to read this? Yeah, so I think I know where you're getting with this, but I'm not going to mention it out loud because. Okay, so some chats that I can bring this one up. It's creative. Let me see here. I think I saw a chat a little higher up. Let me just make sure that my 6:50, it might be time to go have dinner with the children. Dinner time, question mark? Yes, now Siri knows. Siri knows what I'm doing. The secure. Okay, we got that. Okay, so that's good. Let me hold on one second. I'm going to go down here. Tomorrow, more Johnny Depp. I've seen enough now. The only time I'm going to live stream, I think, Amber Heard's testimony. What's what I'm looking at? Testimony is the word I'm looking for. That I want to see how that goes down. That's going to be interesting to watch. Okay, let's just go back to the diary. The Viva diary. So what did we get? No, click on my face here. Pin tweet, fine. Trudeau we saw. Okay, tongue-in-cheek jokes. Jug meat. Why don't we talk about this for 1 second? Do you see how they're touting? This will be a good one to end on. If you are not familiar with Parkinson's law of mundanity, or a number of Parkinson's laws, and it's not Parkinson disease, and I don't think there's any connection. Well, maybe I should look that up. Parkinson was an economist, a theorist, and he came up with a few good principles. Parkinson's law of mundanity. And for anybody who's worked in a big corporation, you'll know what I'm talking about. For anyone who's tried to plan a high school party, you're going to know what I'm talking about. People can spend hours discussing the most innocuous details of a plan, and they will gloss over the most complicated aspects of a plan because everybody has an opinion on the easy stuff, and nobody wants to discuss the hard stuff. Useful logic. I love the super chats, but don't feel compelled to do this to promote your message. But thank you very much. I want to feel good about the super chats and not feel that people feel that. Thank you very much. You don't need to do it again, but thank you for the support. People will spend. It's the water cooler. You'll talk about where to put the water cooler in an office. Put it by the bathroom so that people can use it and then go to the bathroom. Don't put it by the bathroom because people come out of the bathroom with dirty hands and then they're going to go top thing on the water. It's going to be gross. Put it by the big boardroom. No, the sunlight's going to heat up the water. You can argue about that for hours. Everyone's going to have an opinion because it's something that's simple and straightforward enough for everyone to have a hard opinion on. Talk about restructuring. Nobody's going to, okay, fine. We'll talk about that later because the complicated stuff is hard to solve. And nobody wants to look stupid. So people are not going to venture to have opinions on it. There's another one, Parkinson's law, where you fix. The bottom line is fix the easy stuff. Make hay of the easy stuff because it's easy to fix. Ignore the complicated stuff. Here's a Jagmeet Singh who's now decided his what is it now? The soup of the day is dental care. So long, dental plan. Lisa needs braces. Dental care. That's his focus right now. Children are suffering psychological harm from 2.5 years of abusive governmental policy. They are having issues with drugs. They're having issues with harmful ideations. But Jagmeet Singh's thing right now, it's dental care because it's simple. It's easy. It fits into a tweet. And the ultimate irony of a government that had to lock down its population because of the healthcare system that it has been in charge of for decades, universal healthcare. It's such a dilapidated, understaffed, it's in such disarray that the solution to the issues caused by the Rona were to lock people in their homes, shut down businesses so that you wouldn't overflow an already strained healthcare system. So the government that has been in charge of and utterly failed to the point where their solution is to strip citizens of their rights to compensate for their own incompetence. Well, they want to have a kick at the can at dental care now because they've done so well with universal care, universal health care, the healthcare system. Let's go for dental care. I've heard from so many people who suffer because they can't afford a dentist. It has impacted their entire well-being. That's why the NDP used our power to secure dental care for Canadians, and will fight until every Canadian is covered head to toe. Can you imagine this is from the guy that supports the guy that implements mandatory 14-day quarantine if you happen to be an unvaccinated traveling 12-year-old? Don't talk about that. Dental plan. I mean, it's like it's The Simpsons in real life. And I just, 2 weeks to flatten the curve so as not to overwhelm our healthcare system. Yeah, now they want their go at destroying dental care. Oh, yeah. Government. Oh, did I say it here? Oh, yeah, there we go. Government is the only institution that gives itself a raise with each failure. Okay. Oh, well, this is worth sharing. The moment Alita. The next one is the one, people. Hold on.
The next one. You're gonna miss it. Let's do it.
Oh my gosh, this is
Look
crazy,
at
you
it.
guys.
Emily sent us. Is Emily?
Yeah, they're
Baker sending
holding-
folks?
They're holding
now
up
the
the
next
back.
one is the one. Oh, no.
Oh, Viva,
Oh,
you
my
fooled us,
We're
Viva.
almost there.
We're almost
Here it
there.
Here
Put
it
your
is.
phone down, Viva. Put your
Here it
phone
is.
down.
I put my phone down. Boom.
Happy New Year.
Fantastic. Anyhow, great stuff. Some interesting testimony from the expert today. So that's it. People, this has been wonderful. I hope it's been insightful. I hope it has not been enraging. The point of this is not to get enraged. It's to get politically motivated, to make a change. You have to know. It's like Neo coming out of the Matrix. You have to know what is reality, as difficult as it is to swallow. My girlfriend dislikes jug meat more than Justin. Man, it's a tough call between the two of them. I don't know, man. I don't know. Hold on. There's a way to find out. Going to go to details. Going to go to the stream. And we're going to end with this. We're going to end with a poll. Who is worse? Justin Trudeau, Jag Meat Singh. Add another option. It's a tie. And just show results. Just in case anybody doesn't want to partake in this, ask your community. Let's see. I haven't backed up my computer for 576 days. Woo! That's because I do it my own way. Okay. Let's see. The poll is there, people. Before you leave, give a thumbs up, drop a comment, answer the poll. What happened yesterday in Quebec with 12-year-old children, parents, and the government law changes? Lisa, go check it out. I did a vlog on it on Sunday, a car vlog. Bill 15 passed, which strips parents of parental supremacy as relates to the application of the Youth Protection Act. And there's concerns as to how this might be applied or misapplied, because as of now, parental supremacy has been stripped as the ultimate consideration. And now it's the interests of the child above all else. There's no longer any parental supremacy. And the obvious question is, who's going to decide what's in the best interest of the child? If not the parents, if not law-abiding parents. And so that's, and anyways, go check out the vlog. I put it up Saturday, and it's, I think it's on point. Okay, let's see here. People with superiority complexes should not be allowed in government. Azar, the problem is, it's by and large people with superiority complexes that seek government from municipal to federal. That's the problem. Oh, yeah. Okay, let me see here. We got in the chat. So that is it. This was fun. People, I think we're going to be live at some, maybe not at some point tomorrow. I had something in the morning. What did I have in the morning tomorrow? My God, I'm actually losing my mind. But tomorrow night, we're going to have Ariadne Jacob up for the sidebar. Now, and it's Ariadne Jacob is suing the New York Times. I'm going to go refresh my memory on the lawsuits. And you know, it merges perfectly with Taylor Lorenz, who's been in the news for reasons. So tomorrow night's sidebar is going to be wickedly entertaining. I'm going to share some links around so that people can get familiar with what's going on. Word of the day: menticide. Thank you, Viva. Barb, Ariane, thank you very much. Poop emojis with peanuts. Hold on. Yeah, those are peanuts. I couldn't tell if it was peanuts or a butternut squash. Menticide, I like it. Before you run, regardless of what you mean, Mr. Mark said JFK, the smoking gun, is worth a watch. Take away from it what you will. As is the case with everything. You don't have to agree with what you watch. You don't even have to like it. But you will learn from everything if you view it properly. Add Freeland to the... Too late. No. What was the song by Tom McDonald? Something, no, flame emojis. It's a great song. All right, I'm gonna go enjoy it. You know what I'm gonna enjoy? I'm gonna enjoy my evening relaxation, my bad habit, my snifter of ported Christmas. I'm gonna go and sit down. We're gonna probably have a conversation with the kids or try to talk, but I think we're gonna end up watching ridiculousness. My other vice, I love ridiculousness. I've been on it. Video clips of mine have been on ridiculousness 3 times, and I'm waiting for the time when I'm watching it, and it just happens naturally. Okay, Winnie. Oh no, Winston. I didn't bring him down. Didn't bring him down, Winston, today. Viva Untold Stories kept me from this with Barnes. Don't. Oh shoot. I overlapped with them. Now I'm going to go obsess over this and hope that they're not angry with me. I absolutely forgot that they were live at 5:30. And I waited until 5 because I didn't want to. It's impossible not to overlap. Anyhow, so in order to make my guilty conscience feel better, go check out America's Untold Stories with Eric Hunley, Mark Gobert. Subscribe to them. And when you go, leave a comment that says Viva sent you so that I can feel less guilty about having overlapped with them. So there's not enough time in the day. Tomorrow night's sidebar is going to be awesome. Thursday, stick around. I'm going to go to Ottawa, I think. I will not be live streaming or doing anything from the courtroom if I actually do get down there, but I will live stream before and live stream on the way back so that I can talk about it. That's it. People, go enjoy the evening. Get some fresh air if it's still time yet. Hold on. I got to close that. No backup. Got it. Oh, you know, one last one before we go on. I'm going to go make sure that I didn't forget anything on Rumble. If there's any Rumble rants. Oh, look at that. We're front screen on Rumble with that. Look at that. That is, come on, focus on it. Now, whatever. That's what's going on Rumble. So I didn't miss any Rumble rants. I'll go check out the chat there. People, thank you all. Go enjoy the night. Say hi to someone. Have a conversation with someone in real life. Fresh air, exercise, sunlight. And see you tomorrow. Peace.